this is Riley. So recently I've been going through a phase where I like to make things. Like my shampoo, I've been kind of interested in trying my own hand at things that I don't normally think about, like face wash and soap and bread. So yes, my most recent of these hobbies has been bread making. And yesterday I made my first ever loaf of bread, woohoo! I even wrote it in my journal, April 5th, 2018, first loaf of bread. I feel like it's a special occasion, something that I'll look back on when I'm like 100 and I'll be like, that was the first day I made bread. Anyways, that aside, it was surprisingly easy. And it turned out beautiful. It might have been a little bit flat, and I didn't add enough salt, so it was a little bit less flavorful than I would have hoped for. But it was a really good first try. So for the longest time, until I went to France and they explained to me what bread was, I thought that like cake and banana bread and cookies and all of that other baking stuff, that bread needed eggs. But really, it's just this vegan thing, if you make it traditionally, where you just use flour and salt and water and some sort of yeast to make it rise, and often the yeast is just made out of flour and water, so really it's just flour, water, and salt. So that's like 3, maybe 4, depending on how you look at it, ingredients. It's nothing. It's super cheap to make. But you know, I learned that and then I just assumed that it would be way too hard to make bread. Like, who makes bread at home? It must be something that it takes years and years to understand. I mean, if you go to the grocery store or a bakery, a loaf of bread can cost anywhere between $3 and $7, depending on where you buy it, of course, and what quality it is. But still, bread can be really expensive. And expensive things mean hard, right? So anyways, last weekend, Gabe and I went and visited some friends, Simon and Chloe. And in my opinion, Chloe is this master of home bread baking. And she showed me how she makes bread, and she gave me some of her starter. So I came back to Montreal all ready and hyped up and wanting to make bread. And I learned that it takes a long time, but hardly any of your time. That's to say that you spend about 5 minutes mixing together everything, then you leave it for like 12 hours. Then you spend maybe another 10 minutes doing some more mixy sort of things and kneading a little bit. We used a no-knead recipe, so you don't really need to knead it, but you want to shape it and you knead it a little bit. You add salt. And then you leave it for another like 2 hours or so until it's risen enough. And then you pop it in the oven for a little while and then you have bread. It's really like no work on the part of the human. And it's super cheap. It just takes a little bit of forethought, just a little bit of planning ahead. And while I'm talking about bread, why not have a fun fact of bread? A bread fun fact. I just was looking up bread stuff online and I learned surprisingly that Napoleon is the one who named pumpernickel bread. He at one point wanted some sort of dense rye bread for his horse named Nicole, and he demanded pain pour Nicole, or bread for Nicole, his horse, which was heard as pumpernickel. And that is where we got the name pumpernickel. Fun. One thing that I did not expect while making bread. The dough is super sticky, like really sticky. The first time I went to knead it, I had a glove. I had a dough glove. And I learned that if you wet your hands, the dough doesn't really stick to wet hands, so that helped a lot. Anyways, making bread is super fun and easy, and it's so fun and easy that I actually prepped another loaf last night, and it is in the oven right now, so I'll give you a little peek of that before I post this video. See you next Friday.